memory jars, and I haven't read it, but it looks adorable. And it really is all about memory. I mean, it's what a beautiful way to say it. All right, I'm going to show you a few more things. So I have some spaghetti sauce there, marinara sauce, a somewhat empty shelf because I'm reorganizing, and then more marinara sauce there. And this is just a shelf that is near, in the kitchen, just some open shelving. And that's what I meant about needing the stool. I've got things up way high up. So at this moment, I am tucking jars everywhere, and we'll probably have a better system soon. Now I'm going to show you my absolute favorite spot. And this is one, it's beautiful open shelving, so I adore it. And it holds my favorite things. It holds like the secret of the garden, the secret of the plants. It's all here. Let me show you. All right, well, let me say that this is a constantly rotating, changing shelf. But right now, it's not too shabby. I have a print up there, I think it fell, that Chloe gave me for my birthday that I need to frame, and I'm gonna put in that little blank wall spot right there. So I have dried herbs up here. They're being filled as we speak because things are still coming in from the garden. Tulsi basil. I've got mixed cooking herbs here. I did not grow hawthorn, so I did order some hawthorn. Mint. I used, I just dried the celeriac leaves, so I have an entire huge jar of celeriac leaves to add for flavors. The chives are from my garden. The onions are not. Then I've got lemon balm, oregano, goldenrod back there, and those, that's my little toothpick, and those are all from the garden. And then down here, I have my salts that I made. I have the rest of them in bigger jars, but I've got the little salts here. That way I can just use them as I'm cooking. More goldenrod drying. This, I usually just put some, if I open a new thing of garlic, I put the garlic cloves in there. I put my rings in here when I'm cooking and washing things. And then here are infused honeys. So I've got the date on here and what it is. And every other day I turn it upside down. So it does that. And I just had these turned. And then, those are going to infuse for a while. I've got calendula in olive oil here. Got my date on there so I know when I put this in so that I can know when to strain it. I've got coconut sugar for people who like things in their, coffee, tea, whatever, chopsticks, some sunflowers that we're drying. So just right here feels like the heart of it for me. Like this is the promise of healing from foods. This is medicinal. This is culinary. The honey will be our medicine in the winter. And it just feels so good. So if I'm telling anyone any advice for gardening, start with herbs. I started with herbs and I don't run out. I don't grow many herbs, and they are prolific and they regrow, and you pick them and they regrow, and you make teas and you cook with them and you infuse them in oils and you make salves and you make honeys. Like it is, and I don't make tinctures because I don't use alcohol, but you can make tinctures, it's all right here. And this is just from a few herbs. I'll be expanding the herbs, but this is, such a beautiful beginning. Back here I have, I dry a lot of herbs just randomly around the house. So I've got chamomile and Tulsi basil drying there. It's a really cute little spot. I put my apron and a little print that I got from Etsy. I have, that's lemon balm drying just on my cutting boards that have little nails holding them up. So I just add the dried herbs there. I hang them from the windows. Those are our pears that we grew. This is rosemary. This is mint. So again, you know, just finding all these little spots, I just throw them up there. I have some in the living room. I've got more Tulsi basil here. I've got my pumpkins curing. I've got my potatoes drying. I have to keep them away from the cat because she likes to play with them. I have a little puppy just hanging out on the giant beanbag in the living room. All right, so that's that. All right, and then let me show you kind of this last little bit. There's certainly more to share, but this is Dave's grandmother's cabinet that we refinished and kind of took a piece out that was here. So this is all open glass and you can see through, and put new handles on it, and I really love it. So let me show you what I've got in here. I also have my cow picture, which I adore, and squash everywhere, and more Tulsi basil, and more squash. So here are my onions. I am planning to put the onions in this drawer where right now I store dish towels and cloth napkins. I'm gonna find a new place for those and put my onions in there because I think that's a really good, dark, cool place. All right. Let's check it out in here. All right, so the ginger, the dill, and the coriander are not grown from me. I ordered those in bulk to last this year until I'm able to figure out my own system for these things. But I do have my own, you know, sage. These are the Kentucky pole beans we grew. We've got split peas back there. That's coriander from last year. I've got some quinoa here. Marjoram, I didn't dry a ton of that, but I've got some. I don't really know how to use this yet, so I didn't harvest a ton. I've got all my salts, so I've got the sage, thyme, garlic salt. I've got the sage, rosemary, basil, garlic salt, almond meal, mung beans, white beans, chocolate chips, salt, black beans, garam masala, the nasturtium salts I made. We've got some almonds, cashews, dates, more lemon balm. This was my lemon balm from last year, and I'm still drinking teas from that. It still has an incredible smell to it. This is my Sweet Fern Homestead tea blend. I only have one jar of that made up so far, and all the rest are just in separate pieces, so I'll hopefully make another jar of that. I've got some stevia, sage, oregano, echinacea, some chai tea that a friend gave me, brown sugar, basil, more beans, that kind of thing. So that's a really nice spot. I did have cans in there last year, but it does face this window, and I just felt like I wanted the cans to be where there was no window. So, or the jars, excuse me, my canning jars. So these things just felt a little safer to me to be in here. They probably, aren't served by the light either, but it's not too much light. Right here on the table, we've got a bunch of seeds. Those are the tomato seeds, and then more squash curing. It had to come off early because of the squash bugs. So this should be orange, and it is not. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, and I'm not sure how it's going to taste, but I'm going to sit it here for a little bit and see what happens. I was telling the kids, like, this is why people, in quotes, decorated for holidays, especially in autumn, is they were curing their foods. They were putting their foods out to dry and to cure, and it looks really beautiful. And now, we don't, typically people are just going to the store and buying the gourds and throwing them on their stoop. But this was practical. This was their food. This is what we were doing. And so decorating with the foods that are coming out of your garden makes total sense, right? And this is just a little peek at what's happening in the fridge. So I've got fermented hot sauce. This one still has the chunky bits in it, and this one is strained. I've got fermented salsa, my fermented kimchi, fermented veggies. Then I've got my kraut, my sauerkraut, which is amazing. Pickles that we have open, relish we have open, that kind of thing. And then downstairs we have a fridge, and that's where I keep all the overflow ferments, and it is packed. So we did a really good job fermenting this year. Goodness, I can't forget this, my fire cider. Look at this. Oops, sorry about my hand. Let's try that again. Fire cider. So easy to make, so simple, really wonderful. You're basically doing onion, horseradish, ginger, rosemary, thyme, garlic, lemon, orange, apple cider vinegar. I think I got everything. Some people put turmeric in it, some people put cayenne. Oh, jalapenos are in there. You can see a lot of different variations, but mostly that's the basic idea. And you're making this really beautiful infused cider. And then you add honey and you can take it by the spoonful in the winter. And this is medicine. Now I've got that over here with my fermenting stuff. I've got more hot pepper sauce. I've got fermented salsa. That's pretty much ready to go in the fridge. I've got pear vinegar. Got white wine vinegar with nasturtiums, more pear vinegar, apple cider vinegar. And that's just my little fermenting corner because it does stay pretty dark over here. Sometimes if it's like a really bright day, I have to just move them a little bit, but this is a fairly dark corner of the kitchen. Here's another kind of heart of the home. This is in my kitchen island in one of the drawers. These are all my spices in those tiny, cute little ball jars that you can get. And this works for me so well. Spices were so stressful to me, but I love to use them. I use them all the time. So I got my label maker out and I just got everything I need in here. Then behind them, I store the plastic tops that I use for the jars. My fermenting tops are back there too. And then just some random stuff. This is how I mark all my things as I'm going with the masking tape and my Sharpie. Rubber bands for drying herbs. Got a bottle of vanilla, some pens and things like that. But that's really, I mean, this has changed the game for me. So that's just right there in my kitchen island. As you can see, I had this marathon canning few days, maybe a week. And I couldn't find my Sharpie. I didn't label things. So, you know, you think, oh, I'll remember. And then everything starts to look alike. So I would say you want to make sure you label your jars. And that was a Singapore hot chili sauce. Amazing. So I think what's happening here is barbecue sauce, pear shallot chutney, spicy plum sauce, marinara, and I believe that's food in jars. I like to know which recipe I used so we can go back and use it again if we like it. This is the only mystery one. This is some sort of tomato jam. It's not the tomato jam I made last year. I need to go look it up and figure out what it is. I used beautiful yellow and orange tomatoes for it. This, I believe, is my ketchup. I'll go back and get the book I used for that. This is the salsa. This is Northridge Farm salsa. And then pizza sauce. And I believe this is Oregon Cottage because that's the only pizza sauce I've ever used. So that, I think, covers it. And then what I'm going to do is just take a wet paper towel and wipe the edges. All the bands are off. And then I'll be able to find storage for everything after I get everything labeled. So my thought is this cabinet, which has an entire open shelf right there, is going to get a bunch of these cans. It's a very dark space. Again, the windows are behind, so they're not shining through the doors. So I think I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in there, and then I may have to just get really creative with like little nooks and crannies of places to put things, so we'll see.